the next one that we're going to do is an O. So here we go. Now, O's are pretty fun because there's a lot of different ways to vary it, okay? So you can do a loop at the top. Some people kind of do them like that. Some people do a small loop. I tend to use this first style, okay? So kind of just give it, almost looks like it's a head that has some hair on it. So I'm just gonna do just shade the downstroke. And now with an O, really this whole second half of it is an upstroke, but I tend to put a little bit of shading just in the little curve, just to give it some dimension, I guess. For the second one, I would just shade on the outside, or on the left side, not necessarily the outside. Yeah, this one, not my best one, that's okay. Tim Maroic, you are here. Wow. We've got a couple men joining us, you guys. So here you can see between the first O and the second O, it's the same style. Oh, Tim, do you want to actually be in this? I'll let you. But in the first O, I shaded the little loop on top. In the second one, I didn't. And so that really is just personal preference, whatever you think looks the best. So totally fine if you do it either way. We'll just do one more just for good measure. Let me know if you don't want to go through the whole alphabet. I just figured that is probably the easiest way just to learn all of the letters. But if you find that that's kind of redundant and you can apply these, then just let me know. But I do think that it's just a good way to learn. So I see that it was a mistake, Maroic family. That is okay. Is there anyone that's watching with their kids right now and having them learn? I'm just curious because I have taught only one little boy. He was so cute. He asked if I could teach him how I did my artwork. So I just taught him the basics of downstrokes and upstrokes, and he caught on really fast. So if you have any kids and they know how to write cursive, or even if you're teaching them, teach them the basics and maybe they'll join in. All right, so we're gonna move on to some different letters that have more of a loop. We already went over an L and an H. So we don't need to refer back to that, but now we're going to do a B, okay? Let me check my comments. I don't want to learn the alphabet. I wanted to learn Hebrew. I'm not sure if that's a joke or if that's serious, but I don't know Hebrew. But if you guys really don't want to go through the alphabet, I will adjust how I'm teaching it. But just let me know. Okay. So now we're going to go and make a B, okay? If you have just joined in the last couple of minutes, I'm just going to do a brief recap. We're just going through the alphabet. We started with C's. These are just kind of all similar motions that we use, and we're following just the basic concept that you can see in these two letters, that every time that you bring your pen up, you are not going to make the stroke very thick. Every time you bring it down, you're going to shade, okay? So when you normally write an L, your pen naturally does not thicken it. We're not using brush pens right now or a calligraphy pen, but you'll just shade every time your pen comes down, okay? And then you can fill it in. So just wanted to give you guys a little heads up of what we're doing, okay? But welcome to my class. If I don't know you, nice to meet you via virtual social media. And hope your quarantine is going well. Okay, so we're going to write a B. I don't know the best way to stabilize this. Okay. Now, this is how I write my B's in cursive. Some people write them more like a normal written B. You really can decide, okay? So let's go back to the first one. I'm only going to shade on the left side of that loop because that's our only downstroke with this style of a B. And then for this one, there are two different downstrokes. So the first part where you're finishing the loop, and then you come back up to form the B, and this part gets shaded as well. I personally just don't really write them like that, so it doesn't look as good as what I would hope, but just goes to show it's all about practice and finding your own style. Everyone's still doing okay at home? Following along? Send me a thumbs up or write, I'm doing great, or anything. So there's the B. And now some people, sometimes even when I write things, I don't even shade the letter, but I do make the little outline. So that can be a style that, maybe you want to just practice even at home where you don't even shade the letter. So let me just give you an example of all the other ones with that style. With an O, I don't typically do the little, the extra shade if I'm not going to actually color it in. Sometimes it's just a fun little style, and you can even just alternate words with this or really just mix it up. If you haven't let me know where you're from, go ahead and comment below to let me know what state you're from, or if you want to tell me the city. Either works. I'm just trying to get a good grasp of how far this made it across the globe, I guess. I did have one person reach out that was from Madrid, who they're really quarantined there. And so I was like, whoa, if we could get some people from other countries. So I did try to move it up just so that they're way ahead of us, but it's like 11 p.m. there, so I'm not sure that anyone from Europe will be joining. But that's some of the basics of these letters. We're going to just keep on moving, so I'm just going to flip my page over and get a new one because it did go through. Alrighty, so our next letter is going to be a K. Now, personally, I really do struggle with writing Ks. I don't always like how they turn out on my papers. I just really can't get it. So I'm going to show you how I write it. If you have a better way, go ahead and ask to join the live and show me, because I'd love to see how you write it. But I'm just going to write this. So, kind of has a couple loops. From Philadelphia, hello. I'm from Chicago, if you didn't know that. So not really in the city, I'm more in a suburb, but I'm one of those people that sometimes claims the city even when I'm not actually from there. So forgive me. Okay, so I didn't really explain that, but I just went down on the left side of the loop, and then I just shaded this little part of the loop. Personally, you technically could shade when you brought your pen down, but sometimes I find it just ends up really bulky, and I just like a little bit more thin line to be visible, but you can try it either way. So I'll go ahead and show you with it thickened in this one. And if you just joined at the end of this, I'm thinking this will probably go till about 6:15, maybe a little bit more, a little longer. But we are going to make a card at the end, so it'll say hello. You can just use whatever paper you have available, big or small. And the post offices are still, last I checked, they're still open even in the midst of all of this shutting down. So you can send it to a friend or family member that maybe you're missing, and maybe a grandma or grandpa that you don't really get to FaceTime because they can't figure out how to use a phone, and send it to them. I know my grandma, she just got released from she was doing physical therapy at a rehab place, but they didn't allow anyone to go in or out. So here's the K. You can just keep on practicing. We're going to move on right after this one. But I'm not going to shade. I'm just going to outline just to show you what that would look like for this one too. So here you're getting a few other styles. Alrighty, so there's the K. Now we're going to move on to the letter F. I personally really like writing an F. I don't know why. It's just kind of fun. And an F is nice because you're really just gonna shade this downstroke right on the left side of the letter. And again, there are a few ways that you can do these ones. You don't have to write it just like me. Some people add a little bit of an extra loop when they bring the pen back up, so I'll show you that as well, okay? So, just gives it a little bit more of a style rather than just basic cursive, but the basic style works just fine. Sometimes I think it starts to look like a B, but obviously if you're writing, you know, a word like frog or something, not sure why you'd hand letter frog, but it would be connected to the R, so it would clearly look like an F. But one more. I'm not going to shade this one. Just going to keep it like that. Okay. All right, now we're gonna move on to the letters that are more of like an M or an N. Some of those, okay? So let me again just adjust because my paper. Okay, I'm actually gonna come back up to this spot on my paper. So I'm gonna write an M. I really like M's as well. And really every time you bring the pen down, go ahead and shade it, okay? So I've got them all outlined. And there you go. Again, if you've just recently joined, let me know where you're from. Go ahead and just grab a piece of paper and a pen. I'm using just a basic Sharpie marker. You can use a normal marker or really whatever. I do find that using a marker is a little bit easier when you're first learning because you can shade a little bit easier instead of having to color in with like a ballpoint pen. So for this M, I made them the downstrokes a little thinner. So there's just a small change. And I like to kind of vary the height of each of the little humps in the M. Just gives it more of a whimsical look. But however you write your M's, that's totally fine. I guess this is more of the style that we learned when we were in grade school. And that's how I started doing it. When I first started, I wrote my M's like this, but I did eventually just kind of find my own style. I'll do one more. And I'm not going to shade this. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and move on to an N. It's going to be very similar to an M. Just has one little bump. So again, just shading on these downstrokes. Yeah, we'll just keep going. So I can go kind of through this pretty fast just because I have practiced it a lot, but if you're taking a little bit extra time at home, no big deal if you don't get through as many practice letters as I do.